welcome to T0 Endurance webinar series. Actually, just to kind of give you an update, we will be actually changing from T0 Endurance to Endurance Zone. So we'll be doing that soon because we're trying to broaden out, and we've got a lot of great things. But today I've got something great for you. Brady Murray, how are you doing, buddy?
Nice. Doing really well. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing good. It's great to have you on. I kind of give people a backstory of how we met. 2012, we were the first Kona-inspired athletes to go to Kona after going through this whole contest. And Brady, you had a great story and a great cause. And every time I watch you go across that line, get a little choked up because it was a huge moment in time. And tell me more about your Kona experience in 2012.
Yeah, that was an experience that I reflect on often because it has had a lot of parallels for other areas of my life. But that was something that was absolutely a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm still extremely thankful for Ironman and the Ironman Foundation for making that happen, because there has been so much good that has come from that since then.
Yeah, and it's one of the big things when you cross that finish line. That year it was sponsored by My List, and they donated enough to be able to help sponsor a child. And tell me how huge that is for a company. You know, you're putting your effort out there, you're putting your actions out there. How big is that for a company to come through like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So My List and Rob White, the founder of My List, and just a very dear friend of mine, and I were able to connect through the Ironman Foundation and through Kona Inspired. And so I remember very specifically the whole purpose of why I want to run Kona and be able to get into Kona was really to be able to try and save an orphaned child that has Down syndrome that I had actually met that summer in Peru when I was down there on a humanitarian effort. And I thought, geez, this could be the perfect platform to be able to create awareness for her and to be able to hopefully find a family for her, and if possible, be able to raise some funding to help that family to be able to adopt them. And so when I crossed that finish line and Rob handed me that check, I still get emotional about it right now, because I knew that was the link to be able to get this little girl home. And since then, I've actually met her again with her family and been able to hold her in my arms, and just such a tender experience to have that big surprise when I crossed the finish line in Kona.
That transitions us perfectly to rods. Now that's your foundation in which you do these amazing things. And like I was telling you before we came on, my brother and I did the Disney Marathon, and you had a great presence down there. Tell us more about what RODS is and how people can be involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So what RODS stands for is Racing for Orphans with Down Syndrome. So RODS is something very near and dear to me. Really, the inspiration for RODS came back in 2007 when my second child was born, my first son. And about 10 minutes after Nash was born, the doctor came over to me and he put his arm around me and he said, "Brady, we believe that your son has Down syndrome." And that was the first that I had ever heard of that. And it was heavy. Like, it just was very heavy on my shoulders and just a significant weight. Since then, I learned that Down syndrome is not a bad thing by any means. Down syndrome is a very wonderful thing. And there's wonderful people out there that just happen to have Down syndrome. And so over the years with Nash, I got involved in various Down syndrome communities. And I also changed my life. I learned that oftentimes in many countries, when a child's born with Down syndrome, that they're immediately placed into an orphanage. And I thought, geez, like, we've got to help these kids. And so my wife and I started doing just some basic fundraising and awareness things around the community. We lived up in Boise, Idaho at the time. And we started to have some traction that came from this. And my wife said, "Look, I've got a great idea. Why don't you run an Ironman to be able to raise awareness for these children?" And I'd never done an Ironman. Like, that was like,
wait, she said,
I looked
do
at
this.
her and I'm like, why don't you do an Ironman, right? I think this would be a great thing for you to do. But this was spring of 2012, and as you know, the
Yep.
Ironman Foundation was just doing their Kona Inspired event, and so I just felt like it was fate. I felt like I was supposed to do it, and so we did the video, and lo and behold, fast forward 6 months later, there we are with you, Rob, over in Kona running this race and starting to change some people's lives a little bit at a time.
I love it. And, people can go, what's the website they can go to either be involved in the races or find out more?
Yeah, it's rods.org, and you can find out how to be able to participate. We, from Kona Inspired and from the event, we were able to form a nonprofit foundation to where endurance athletes from all over the world can join and be able to participate, dedicating their racing efforts, whether that's marathons, triathlons, 5Ks, whatever it may be. They can dedicate their racing efforts to be able to help orphan children be able to be united with a loving family.
Now, if you challenged your wife back and said, "Hey, maybe we can raise even more money if you do an Ironman and we do it again."
What's funny about that is I did talk her into doing half Ironman with me a year or so later. Nice. And then she's got into endurance running with me, and we both ran the Boston Marathon 2 years ago, and it was kind of fun because we ran that race together, and so we ran the entire time together. And I told her, and we had this all planned that we were going to hold hands as we crossed the finish line, and just going to be this emotional experience. And I was all fired up for this. Well, lo and behold, we turned down that last stretch coming down on the Boston Marathon. And that last 100 yards, she just sprinted and absolutely left me in my dust. I'm like, what happened to our plan? And she gets the official time. She's like, I beat you in the Boston Marathon. Pretty fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that last part, it's hard not to get excited in those last parts of the races because, all the excitement and everything like that. Now, how old is Nash now?
Nash is 12, almost 13. Hard to believe he's going to be a teenager.
That's crazy.
So, something that's been pretty unique as well is we actually adopted another little guy with Down syndrome about 4 years ago. Cooper, we adopted Cooper, and so he's 8 now, and he's from China. And we obviously adopted him just through being involved with the organization. We felt strongly that it made a lot of sense to add another one of these special little kids to our family.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, do they like to go out and participate with you guys? Little 5K, 1Ks, or?
What's super funny is like literally five minutes before I got on this call, this is Nash's new thing. He comes in, he's like, "Dad, feel my muscles." So I got to go and feel his muscles. He thinks that's the coolest thing. So they go and do, they like to run, and they're going to do core work, and Cooper loves doing planks. And so they're very active little guys for sure.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now for rods, the ability to change a life, just kind of like what you did at that finish line. What do you need from individuals to be able to help do that? Like when they fundraise, what is that level that they need to get to be able to help an individual?
Yeah, really good question. So one of the best ways that I've found for individuals to be able to help is, and I genuinely mean this, we've helped 52 children get adopted so far. And in every circumstance, there are families waiting in the ranks to adopt these children. And the only thing that's standing in the way of them being able to adopt a child is the funding. International adoption typically costs $30,000 to $40,000. And so what Rods does is we go and we fundraise typically between $15,000 and $20,000 per child, and really try and meet this family in the middle to be able to adopt a child. And so as an athlete, what you can do is, it's very simple, is you join Rods, right? There's no obligation or cost or commitment in that respect, but you join Rods, you get a profile page, and then you're able to share that profile page and say, "Hey, I'm running XYZ 5K, and we're running this race for this little guy that's tucked away in an orphanage in China. And my goal is to raise $1,000." And you'd be amazed, and you've done this before, how many people want to be able to be a part of that, and
Yep.
they get to have their own little piece, their own little story of that Rods orphan, that athlete and that person that was fundraising was able to bring them home. So we had talked earlier about Disney. We do multiple races at Disney through the Disney Marathon series down there in Orlando. That is probably in fact, it's by far and away our best event, because we really go all out. We have dozens and dozens of athletes in every race that run that. We really make sure to support those guys.
That's amazing. Now, do you guys have slots for races that sell out that you're able to do? What
We
races
do.
are those?
Yeah, that's really the Disney ones are the main ones right now. Okay. And so those ones are selling out very quickly. And fortunately, we were able to secure slots for almost every single Disney race. So when they sell out, that's a great way for Rods to be able to fundraise and they'd be able to get a slot to an athlete.
That's amazing. Now, you yourself were, I guess I didn't even know the backstory of your spontaneous triathlete expansion. Now you said you're getting into more marathons now. What was the marathon that you were going to be doing this weekend or yesterday, I guess?
So I was supposed to be doing the Ogden Marathon, which is here in Utah, just a beautiful springtime marathon. And I mean, I was fired up. I was ready to go, but unfortunately, just with some of the world circumstances, that got delayed. And that, it is what it is. Like it's disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. And I'm just thankful that I can still go out and train every day.
Now, looking at the reality of the situation, a lot of people are seeing the challenges, and there's just a lot of turmoil. What would you say to people? I mean, you have a great perspective because of your organization. You have a great perspective of because what you do things for. What would you say to those people that are looking at things going, gosh, I don't know if I want to do this or if I can do this?
Yeah, I would, it actually takes me back to just my whole engagement in Ironman as a whole. And so in total transparency, prior to Rods even being an idea and prior to even us fundraising for these children, in my mind, I had thought maybe I could do an Ironman. I had some friends that had done some Ironmans. And I thought, that would be a pretty cool bucket list item. And my motivation for doing it, to be honest, is I wanted to say I did an Ironman. I wanted the finisher's t-shirt. I wanted to put the sticker in the back of my truck. I wanted to get my medal, like those were my motivations to be able to do an Ironman. And I had tried a triathlon prior to, again, Kona Foundation, everything else. I tried a triathlon, small triathlon. And like, it was one of those where I almost died. Like I literally thought I broke my knees. I felt like this is the craziest thing in the world. Why would anybody ever do this? And then the thought of like actually calculating the distance of a full Ironman after what I just experienced with this little baby one where you like swim around the pool and ride your trike around the block type of triathlon, like there was no way. But something changed, right?
Yeah.
Like it changed for me when my wife said, you should do a triathlon for one of these little kids. And now all of a sudden it wasn't about the finisher's medal. It wasn't about the t-shirt or the sticker in my truck. And I learned very quickly that when individuals allow themselves to get caught up in a cause that is bigger than themselves, they will witness miracles. Now it wasn't about me. It became about somebody else. And I found that my ability to endure the pain of training for those things and actually doing it completely changed. And so I would that right now, that anybody that maybe has hit a wall or they're extremely frustrated because maybe they're supposed to race next week and they put all this time and it's just not happening, I would encourage you to find a cause, find something. And this doesn't have to be a save the orphans thing, right? Like it can be something that speaks to your heart, that motivates you and allows you to get outside yourself and get caught up in a cause bigger than yourself. So that would be my advice.
That's great advice. That's exactly what it is. It's being part of something bigger than yourself. And I think you hit it right in the head. What is a big next step for you? Do you have a big adventure? The Western States 100 or something like that?
I've thought about that. I've thought about it, right? I've thought about it. And so we go in various Ironmans, is different types of Ironmans, I would say, my wife and I. And so we still work out, and I think I'm just going to stick with the marathon stuff for right now. Something that we have gotten involved in is doing foster care as well, just recently. So we have 2 foster daughters that are living with us that are 3 and 2. So that brings our total to 7 children in our house. And so
Wow.
social distancing doesn't exist in the Murray household. And here in the state of Utah, they limited our groups to 10 or less. And I'm like, we're right on the verge just at the family dinner, right? Like, we got to be careful. No pets, right?
No pets.
And so I found that, you know, it's a different type of endurance event and a different type of maybe experience as a whole, but it's challenging. Like you've
Right.
been there before.
Yep.
In those circumstances when like you just got to go deep. It's just a
Yep.
dark place when you're out there on the road and it's hot or it's cold, whatever it is. And I love putting myself in those experiences, and foster care has definitely done that for us. But man, there's been so much good that's come from it as well. So we're running different types of Ironmans right now, I would say.
That's a lot of transitions.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's good.
I love it. I love it. Now, you know, what can people take away from this? Because, you know, I've talked to a few pro triathletes and I've talked to some other individuals about mindset, because that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day for individuals, you know, succeeding or feeling like they have value in life. And you really get it from the way you got seven individuals that you're helping to find their way through life. What are some of those key intricate like thoughts that you have to be able to get that mindset, not only for yourself, but for your kids?
Yeah. So endurance sports are naturally a very selfish sport. Like you have to be somewhat self-focused and not even centered, but self-focused to be able to have discipline through those things. But the thing, again, that I would come back to is it doesn't always have to be that way. And right now, so we have weight on our shoulders, and there's athletes out there that are like, this just sucks. Like, I hate this, right? I would challenge them. There are people right now that they can help. It might be their neighbor. It might be their brother who they haven't talked to in a month that lives back east or out west or whatever. There is somebody that they can help. And all they have to do is just take a couple of seconds, even 5-10 seconds, be really quiet and ask yourself, who should I help? And I promise you, somebody will come to your mind. As soon as that person comes to your mind, call them, text them, do whatever it is that you feel like you're prompted to do, and you will help them. And if you continue to go through this process, guess what? These worries about not being able to get in the public or whatever it is start to dissipate. And it doesn't make it easier. Like, it's still painful. It's still a weight on your shoulder. But by taking that energy and pushing that outward, that's going to be able to bless a ton of people's lives. And all of a sudden, our problems aren't going to be as bad as they seem to be. And this will pass, right? Like, this is going to pass, and things are going to be better. Like, summer's right around the corner. Like, things are going to work out all right, right?
Right. I love that philosophy. I mean, it really does tie closely into triathlon, because it's one pedal stroke. It's one, you know, swim stroke, one step in the right direction. And like you said, there's a lot of people that can use that positivity right now. I love your message, man. What do you love so much about this endurance community that really drives you to it?
It's that outward mindset. And so when I started to train and get really serious about triathlon, I found that everybody was willing to be able to offer some type of helping hand, advice, let you borrow their bike, let you teach you, give you a hint in the pool, give you a little pat on the butt as you're out there struggling on the bike or the run. Like, everybody, it's that outward mindset. That's the whole core of endurance athletes, I believe, is that it's that outward mindset to be able to help others to be able to achieve their best. And in turn, it helps us internally as well. And there's some characters too. Like, I just love the personalities. I think there's some larger than life individuals that have so much to give that I've met in triathlon and in endurance sports that you just don't meet anywhere else. I think it draws a certain type of person, very special person.
Especially crazy.
That's exactly right.
Especially
Something to be
crazy
said about that.
And a lot of those butt pats that you get on the swim are really not that great, you know.
That's right.
I love it. I love it. Well, Brady, it is so good to catch up with you again. I know that we'll have you on again, and as our endurance zone moves forward, we'll definitely have to get rods in the mix and definitely get more people on board and find out more. Where can they go again to find out more about rods?
Yeah, piece of cake. Rods.org, rods.org. Love to have you participate in any way that you can.
Love it. Great cause, great individual. Brady, thank you so much for coming on today. And we'll have you on again, I'm sure.
Thanks, my friend, and keep up the great work. You're doing some amazing things. Just love your energy. Love the positivity that you've always portrayed. You've always been a great inspiration for me. So thanks, my friend.
I appreciate that. I love that in this time. So thank you, Brady. I appreciate that. All right. Anybody want to find out more about rods? Obviously, rods.org. You can go to iwishIwasracing.org, or you can go to endurancezone.com to find out more about who will be next. Thanks again for coming. We'll see you soon.